Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. Now you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of anywhere else? And that's because over there, they don't care about what you have to say. They say this all the time, they talk down to us, they think we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter. But I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of The Herd with Colin Cowherd talking about Bronny James, LeBron's son, about how he's entering the NBA. And I wasn't originally going to do this clip, so I had it just going on in the background as I was as I was trying to set up the other clips that I'm going to be doing, because I had already kind of loosely talked about this a little bit. But then Colin started giving his take, and I was just like, wait, like what? What nonsense are you spitting right now? And I like Colin. I love Colin. I always have to preface that anytime I'm about to say something negative about him. I really do. He's my favorite one out there. But he just started spitting some straight nonsense. And I didn't even watch the whole clip. It was really just a couple minutes in. And I was like, okay. And I immediately paused and was like, I have to break this down. So let's take a listen to see what he has to say. And then we'll break it down from there.
Come up last week. Bronny James, who played at USC, averaged about 5 points a game. Athletic kid, gotten better as a shooter. Remember, he had that cardiac arrest, so there's been kind of an ascension since that. It's been a slow build. He entered the NBA draft, and there's those that suspect that the Lakers would be interested or a team would be interested drafting Bronny James to attract LeBron. For all of those that are bothered by that, you haven't seen this in college football recruiting when you sign a marginal player from a high school because there's a great player at the high school the following year. Sometimes you sign a cousin or a brother of a great player who's a marginal player. Colin, the only reason he would get drafted is because his dad is LeBron. Sort of the same reason you got into law school, because your dad went there. You know how many people...
He's saying this like that's an okay thing. That it's okay. Like, yes, we understand that those things happen. That people get into law school. And we're actively at a point in the world and in the country that we're trying to combat those things, combat nepotism to varying degrees. This idea that you should get into this law school, this prestigious school, whether it's law school or any type of college, because family went there, taking the place from someone who's more deserving, is what we are trying to break down. We're trying to say no more of that, because that's how you have the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That's how you gatekeep these prestigious or just, opportunity in general. So the fact that he's saying it like, well, this happens all the time and that makes it okay, like what are we talking about? It doesn't make any sense. Not to mention, I love who he thinks his audience is. In his mind, his audience must be like, just like all these super wealthy, well-to-do, investment bankers on Wall Street. And don't get me wrong, I believe you're there. And if you're watching this channel, I love it. Thank you so much. But he's speaking specifically to his wealthy Southern California demographic here. And it's just like, I just watched that and I'm just like, what an absurd statement to make. And guess what? If I got into law school because my dad went there, or because my dad was wealthy and was able to pull strings, I wouldn't feel good about that. Don't get me wrong. I would do it if I needed it, if that was like the only way I could get through. And that's why I defended LeBron James. I was like, listen, if he has this opportunity to play with his son from a father perspective, I totally get it. And that's awesome. But if we want to like kind of keep peeling back the layer and continue to take a step back, it's like, wait, well, but it still doesn't, one, make it right, or two, make it right for his son, actually. Because I argue it's not good for his son, both just from a basketball development standpoint, although you can make the argument him learning from LeBron, although he's always going to be able to learn from LeBron, but also just life experience, just of him being able to experience what the NBA is like and him just being his own person. having that, go through that, right? It's like going to college. You're so excited to go to college and your roommate is your dad. It's like, that's going to change college. So this idea that he's like saying, well, this stuff like happens all the time and therefore it's okay. We are actively at a time in this country and arguably the world where we are trying to tear down those systems that are in place to do those things, to get rid of legacy admissions into colleges, because he's about to say, and this is the last part that I heard, and then I don't know what else he's going to say after this, but he said he's about to say, you know how many people ask me, if I can get their son, an internship. Yeah, Colin, and that's BS, especially if you do it. If you get your, those people, that's BS. Again, I don't blame you for doing it, because if you can, I get it. You're in that power. And if it's a friend that you want to help out, I get it. And I don't blame the friend for asking you. Again, if my father was friends with Colin, I would say, Dad, can you please talk to him? I would do it too. But I would love to exist in a world where those connections, even if I could use them, don't exist. The best example I heard about this is there's this guy who I really, really, really like, this public philosopher, let's just say, moral philosopher. And he talks about how, he's very wealthy now. He's very wealthy. He's very well-to-do, very privileged in that regard. And he talks about how, he wants to be able to go to a hospital. And even though he has the money and the means and the power to say, bring his kid up to the top of the list to, get the best treatment, to do whatever he needs. And, now there's someone who's poor, less connected, less influence, and that their child, that same father can't do that for his child. Even though he can do it, he wants to live in a society where he can't. Where now, no matter how wealthy he is, no matter what type of connections he has, it doesn't matter, that those two children are on equal footing. And to me, that resonates with me, completely. And that's in essence what I'm trying to say here. But again, he's taking it from a different angle from my viewpoint. I'm just talking about, is it this the right decision for Bronny? And is he good enough? And Colin's like saying, well, how dare you even ask that question? This stuff happens all the time. But the casual fan who's watching this doesn't care about connections. They're just evaluating LeBron James's son on his skill. So all the people that are against this are saying, well, we just don't think Bronny James is good enough. That's what they're just saying. They're not looking at it from all the intricacies of navigating, nepotism. So to me, he's just missing the mark by a long shot. But let's see what else he has to say, because at this point, I don't know what else.
People have asked me that I know through the years, can you get my kid an internship at Fox? Connections matter. They always have. The Lakers aren't moving up to the lottery to draft him. He's not that kind of player. But I called one NBA scout over the weekend, and he said, smart kid, hard worker. He'd be a good player on a great team full of smart guys. He'd bring him off the bench. He is getting better as a shooter. He is athletic. All right. I mean, the NBA's got 2 rounds of draft picks outside of your occasional Jokic, Draymond Green. And a lot of guys drafted in the second round that disappear into the ether. If it energized LeBron, if it got LeBron to your city, I mean, I was thinking about this. LeBron can get a $180 million max contract. The Lakers could give him that. If Bronny got drafted, he'd make $1 million in the second round. So essentially, you'd be paying LeBron $181 million, not $180 million. Dan Hurley's son, he's on the bench for UConn.
But again, no one's talking about this through LeBron. They're talking, when people are having issues with this or just saying, well, this is dumb or this is bad, they're talking about Bronny James's skill level and whether or not he's capable of being in the NBA. Not whether is this a good move to try to get LeBron James to your city, to your team. That's not what the general conversation is about right now. It might get to that point when this becomes maybe more of a realistic option and there's like, well, what team could get him? And it's kind of fun to think about, like, how far would LeBron go? Would LeBron James play for the Utah Jazz, the Atlanta Hawks, the Charlotte, Hornets. Like, is that what they're still called? I don't even know at this point. It's like, it's just, it just makes me laugh at that point, right? What if the Golden State Warriors drafted him? Is LeBron James going to go play for Golden State? The Denver Nuggets drafted him. Is he going to go play with Jokic? So like those are kind of some fun little conversations to have. But it's just this idea, or the Chicago Bulls, right? Would he go to Michael Jordan's country? Now that would be fascinating. But that's not the general conversation. That's not the general conversation that I've seen. People are just saying, is Bronny James good enough? So this is a perfect thing where he's doing sleight of hand. He's moving the conversation, moving the goalpost. He's doing sleight of hand where he's like, let's not talk about whether or not Bronny James is good enough necessarily, because that's the actual conversation. He's like, let's change the conversation. Let's change the topic. This is what Don Draper talked about doing in Mad Men. If you don't like I forget exactly what it is. It's like, if you don't like the conversation, change it or something. And that's essentially what he's doing. He's like, well, let's not talk about that. Let's just talk about LeBron James, and let's just talk about how lots of people do this, right? Whataboutism. So this whole thing is I'm surprised. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be, because Colin tries to toe the line between calling out athletes as well as cozying up to them. And I get it, because he's no longer, since Colin is so also wealthy and powerful within media, I think it's harder for you to now call out a lot of athletes because you never want to punch down. Not to say punching down on LeBron, because you can't punch down to LeBron. LeBron's way up there. But even like Bronny, right? You never want to punch down. That's why I'm more comfortable, because I'm not famous. I'm not rich. I'm not living this, Hollywood lifestyle here. So I don't have I don't live in Taylor Swift's same neighborhood. So if I call out other players, it's not punching down. Now, if I was fortunate enough to get super famous and make $1 gajillion, it would be a lot harder for me to call out, a 22-year-old kid. Because I would be like, that's just a kid. I don't want to call him out. My life's great. His life he's trying to make a life. So it's different. It's different. So I do get it. And I think he used to be more aggressive when he was less successful, quite honestly. When he was, wearing his glasses and was a lot nerdier and was wearing like, shirts that were barely fitting, and, you could see his hair not looking like what it looks like now. So I just think Colin has really kind of changed over the years, because there's no way he thinks that this is, a good move. And then he's like, well, Bronny James is athletic and growing. The dude showed like nothing in college. I'm not going to tell you that he's going to be a bust in the NBA or can never play. But don't try to tell me, because Colin, this is the last point I'll make, and this is how I know I'm right. Based off of me calling out Colin, not like the general conversation as all. I could be wrong on that, but just Colin manipulating his own, tying himself into knots. He literally has talked about why the EuroLeague is so good and why the players come out and they're so much more prepared and better and can have success early on, because they get a lot of reps. The competition is higher level, it's more organized than what we do in, AAU and college and all of that, that it's more professional, all this type of stuff. And he's like, that's why people out of Europe are going to be better, and they're taking over the league. He went on a whole rant about that, like literally just a couple weeks ago. And now he's trying to act like Bronny James pretty much skipping college, because that's essentially what he's doing, since he barely did anything for that year, is a good move for him. It's just not true. It's just not accurate. So I don't even think Colin believes that. I think he believes in the nepotism aspect and says, hey, it's fine. I got my daughter probably into, I'm giving my daughter all these opportunities, and I will never knock a father, a family member, a friend helping out other people. If you have the money, if you have the connections and the resources and the power and all of that, I will never fault you for using it. No ifs, ands, or buts. I won't even think twice about it. I won't even second guess it, because it's like, yeah, you better believe if, when it's time for me to be able to give to my children and family and all of that, I will give them every single thing I possibly can. Every single thing I can. Every connection, every drop of dollar that I have. I daydream about telling my children, listen, I want you to go off and live your life and do all those things, but you will never have to worry about money or never have to worry about anything. Go take your chances. Go live your best life. but I will never not have you protected. If you need me to pay your mortgage or your rent to the day I no longer exist, I will do it, right? Like you have those two schools of thoughts where it's like, nope, you got to go off on your own and do your own thing. And I'm like, I take the opposite approach. It's like, I'm trying to acquire as much resources that I can so I can give it and share it with the people that I love and want to help, and I have faith in my ability to raise my future children in a way that they won't be spoiled or not be able to, navigate life because I'm just giving them things, just completely with no strings attached, right? Like I have faith that I'll be able to raise good children and still be able to give them all of the gifts, that I can have. But that's just me. And I know Colin, feels that way to a degree as well. To my knowledge, he takes care of his children as well as his stepchildren and, and stuff like that. Like I think Colin is fundamentally a good person and over his years has been able to acquire a lot of resources and money and connections and all of that and wants to use it for that. And again, I think that's awesome. I really, really do. And I tip my hat to it, but let's not pretend, though, that it's the status quo for the average Joe. I did not mean to rhyme, but sometimes it just happens. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you think about Bronny James entering the NBA draft? What do you think about Colin's take that it's, hey man, it's all good? Let me know in the comments below. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, as I said, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. Thank you so much. See you next time.